Trade reports revolving around the New York Rangers are continuing to escalate as the Four Nations Faceoff is nearing an end. Teams are going to be active, and one insider has revealed a wild New York Rangers trade scenario that will have Rangers fans fired up. We're going to break it all down in this episode of Rangers Digest, but before we do that, a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. About 68% of you who watch these videos are not subscribed to the channel. So if you want to stay up to date with everything that's happening with the New York Rangers, from trade rumors to trade reports, practice news, game reactions, all that good stuff, it's free. Be sure to hit that subscribe button. Now, the New York Rangers are nearing a return to action. All the remaining players that are not in the Four Nations Faceoff are reporting back today at 2 p.m. for practices to get back into the swing of things, because the season does resume later this week, and it should be a crazy ending here to this Four Nations Faceoff tournament, because Canada and USA are playing each other in the final. But in the meantime, teams are going to be active again. Everyone's going to be back, reporting back for duty, and GMs are going to be busy. And one insider, and I say insider, it is Larry Brooks from the New York Post, is suggesting a very interesting New York Rangers trade. And this is from Jacob. Insiders suggest huge Rangers and Ducks trade. And this is, you can guess it already, Larry Brooks kind of just floated it out there. And listen, again, this is from Larry Brooks. Do I believe everything he says? No, probably 90% no, but this is something that he said, and this is something that he wrote about, and there is some backlash on Twitter as well, which we'll get to, which was pretty funny. We'll get to that later in the video, but still needing another push. One Rangers insider suggested they look at a blockbuster move with the Anaheim Ducks. In a recent article, Larry Brooks of the New York Post has brought up the idea of Alexis Lafrenière for Trevor Zegras. Now, again, I don't think this would be a straight-up trade one-for-one. That wouldn't make too much sense to me. Right, I mean, there would probably have to be a couple more moving parts, especially because of Trevor Zegras' injury history. This year, he's missed some time as well. And obviously, he's a very flashy player, and I think that the Rangers need a little bit more of like what JT Miller brings to the table, something like that, right? So it could be, it's an interesting idea. And again, he just kind of floated it out there, and Brooks went on to say that this would be the 2020 number 1 overall pick for the 2019 number 9 overall pick. This would be trading one 23-year-old forward who has not come close to satisfying expectations for another 23-year-old forward who has not come close to satisfying expectations. Now, on the Trevor Zegras thing, we'll get to Lafrenière in a second, because we all know what Lafrenière brings to the table, right? And he had a great season last year, and I made a couple videos recently where he's kind of disappeared since he signed that contract. Now, on the Trevor Zegras side of things, he's missed some time due to injury. He hasn't had a great, go in Anaheim as of late. I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that they haven't built a team around him, and not even around him, just like they haven't built a team up right there. So I think that has something to do with it. And when you look at Trevor Zegras, again, he hasn't really lived up to expectations, and neither, to a degree, has Alexis Lafrenière. So if they were both to switch, right, and they both got a fresh start, change of scenery, it could do them both good. And with Trevor Zegras, he has been linked to the New York Rangers. They have interest in him for over a year at this point. I remember some of my first videos on this channel were about Trevor Zegras and how the Rangers organization has immense interest in this player. Now, how did they acquire him? They weren't sure. But at this point, maybe this is the avenue. I don't think it is. But again, this was just floated out there by Larry Brooks. And he did go on to say, because this does make sense for this next part, I am not certain I would do Lafrenière for Zegras, but he did say, I would need more information, but I am certain that if I were the Rangers, I would look into this very, very seriously. So Brooks literally just woke up and was like, hey, I'm going to float this out there, maybe, right? And honestly, it's not a bad idea to a degree, right? Where like two of these guys are going to get a, change of scenery, a fresh start. It could work for both teams. I feel like it might actually work out better for the Ducks, because I think Lafrenière, we've seen flashes of brilliance from him. He just hasn't been able to do it consistently at the NHL level. But again, Trevor Zegras is a highly skilled forward. I just don't know if that makes sense for the New York Rangers to make a trade like that. I don't think I want Zegras on this team, because he brings a lot of the skill and the finesse and all that, and I feel like the Rangers have a lot of that, especially from the older guys. So don't know if we want more of that. But if we take a look at the contract situation too, Zegras is in year 2 of 3 of his contract. He has 1 more year after this. He is an RFA, so you do have control of him. He does make $5.75 million. And if you take a look at Alexis Lafrenière, his current contract expires at the end of this year. $2.3 million. He's getting a pretty significant raise, right, for what he's done. $7.45 million. So he's going to make a little bit more, but he will be a UFA and 32 years old. So Anaheim might like that, more cost controlled for them. Zegras, you have no idea what his next contract's going to look like, right? We can look at the projections and stuff, but he's missed time this year. If we take a look at both of their stats from this season, Lafrenière, 32 points in 55 games so far this year, playing top line minutes. He is a minus 13. I think that is a disappointment this year. I think most Rangers fans would agree with that, you know, he hasn't really lived up to expectations, especially after what he did the last half of last year and in the playoffs. And then when you take a look at Zegras, I mean, he hasn't played. He's missed a lot of time this year. He only has 15 points in 32 games. So he is also disappointing and a minus 7 and not playing as much ice time as well. But when you look at the two, it's very similar in terms of ice time, so they can kind of just swap out for each other in terms of roles. I mean, they're not really the same player, but essentially they would play the same role on the team. But Zegras is a little bit lighter as well. I just wanted to mention that Lafrenière is a bigger body. But again, I don't know. This would be, I think, a bad move for the New York Rangers at this point. I would not do this move straight up. And there was this on Twitter: never let Larry cook again. There was a report, I guess this is from Puck Empire or a page like that. Excuse me if I'm incorrect, but I think it was from Puck Empire. And they said that Larry Brooks believes that the Rangers should trade Alexis Lafrenière to the Ducks for Trevor Zegras. And then Larry Brooks followed that up and quote tweeted that with "Stop lying, read the column. This is not what I wrote." And you know what? Like he just kind of floated it out there, right? He didn't actually say, like, I think it would be a good idea. I think he actually says here, you know, he would need more information. He's not certain he would do it, but he did bring it up that is a trade. Like, here's a possibility. So he did bring it up, but I don't think he said that he would definitely pull the trigger. But anyway, last thing we will mention before we wrap up the video here, and let me know what you think of Trevor Zegras for Alexis Lafrenière. I wouldn't do it, but Trevor Zegras has been linked to the New York Rangers for over a year at this point. I think it's well over a year that the organization really likes that player and would want him. I don't think it makes sense for the Rangers. I'd rather a guy like you're seeing on your screen right now in Brady Tkachuk. I'd rather that, a bigger body who can come in on the forecheck and score you goals, assists, all of that. They're hard to find, but maybe you make a trade for them. Maybe you move off of Brennan Othmann or, you know, a couple of the guys we've been talking about recently. But anyway, let me know in the comments what you think. But the last thing we'll mention before we wrap up here, Chris Kreider finally got into a game at the Four Nations Faceoff and scored 30 seconds into the game yesterday. So in Boston too, in his hometown. So pretty cool moment for the New York Ranger there. And another interesting storyline with Team USA heading into Thursday is they have a bunch of injuries. We could see Chris Kreider get into the lineup in the final game against Canada as well. They're missing Austin Matthews, Charlie McAvoy. Matthew Tkachuk is with an undisclosed injury that looks like it was sustained against Canada in the last game. Brady Tkachuk also left this game, and they said it was precautionary, so he might play in the next game. So very interesting. If Matthews and McAvoy do not play, I could see a scenario where Chris Kreider does get back into the lineup for the final game of the Four Nations Faceoff. So it should be pretty interesting. Let me know in the comments what you think of a potential Trevor Zegras for Alexis Lafrenière trade. I'll say it again. Bad idea. I wouldn't do it. Makes no real sense. I think Anaheim's getting a cost-controlled, young, good player, but it could make sense from the standpoint of both of these players could use a change of scenery just because of the way their careers have gone so far, and they haven't really lived up to the expectations or the flashes we've seen at times. So let me know what you think in the comments about that, and let me know what you think about Chris Kreider potentially getting into the final game of the Four Nations Faceoff. Should be a good one on Thursday. We will be keeping tabs on that on the channel for sure, but if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with everything New York Rangers.